on YouTube, and I have come across maybe a competitor for Goji Center's Indominus 2.0, and it's somebody that I wouldn't even have thought of. If you would think Behemoth on this channel that you've seen, what do you think of? Destruction, as in he always gets bodied? Because that's what I think of when I hear him. But today, apparently this guy right here has made a Behemoth able to defeat Indominus 2.0. And now, obviously, Behemoth himself would beat Indominus, but I'm talking about, I think he just named him Behemoth. Anyways, the video is by Madly Mesozoic.
I heard the voice of the fourth beast say,
and here we go. Let me turn this up a little bit.
And behold, a pale horse.
We got a little voice acting.
Ladies and gentle soars.
Shout out to my boy here.
Interrupting our regularly scheduled Spec Evo programming to bring you something special. For those of you who watch Goji Center, one of my favorite channels and a big inspiration for
We've seen Indo
you've
2.0.
probably seen this video of theirs where they redesigned the Indominus Rex.
As you know, we have Indo 2.0. We have
also
Hank.
seen Goji Guy's video about creating his own hybrid dinosaur to take on the Indominus 2.0.
So what will this guy do right here?
Goji Center promptly eviscerated without even changing theirs.
Yeah, he did. Guys, if you haven't yet, scroll down for me, hit that subscribe button.
This video when I
and let me know in the comments.
Goji Guy went about it the wrong way.
Who you got, Indo 2.0?
To a super carnivore,
or this new one?
Another super carnivore. It's a super herbivore. When we think about conflicts between animals, more often than not, we're thinking predator versus prey.
That's facts,
not
actually.
so much predator versus predator. For what is T-Rex?
It's more fun to see predator versus predator.
The gazelle, or the lion without the buffalo. Not only am I going to create this hybrid with fewer species than Goji Center used to create theirs, just 7, I'm not going to use any dinosaurs or predators at all. In fact, I am going to double down on my channel's well-established mammal bias and prove mammalian supremacy by using only mammalian prey items, or at least mammals that aren't really
we're going mammals
with one
today.
Exception. And by now, you've probably also noticed some biblical themes in this video.
I kind of just thought of Behemoth as in
quoted the Bible in
Behemoth
their video,
is huge.
Specifically, some bits of
he
Mark
could just kind of step on him.
My name is Legion, for we are many. This suggests that the Indominus 2.0 and its offspring are demons. And to take on demons, we must levy righteousness.
All right, I'm already a fan of this guy right here.
Because I've been itching to make
We're making an angel.
With some biblical themes, and this was the perfect excuse to do so.
Love that. Let's go, bro.
Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?
I love the little voice acting in this.
Goji Center, in their latest community post as of me making this video, have told us that the purpose of the Indominus 2.0 was to be a primarily terrestrial animal with the capability to bring down all life forms, big and small, reproduce quickly,
That's
and
a big
cause
statement, bro. Big statement.
And we see in their initial video that the Indominus 2.0 is a vector for many diseases. And one of these diseases has the potential to rapidly evolve to transmit to humans and presumably wipe out millions of people.
So this guy's
in our
beast,
scenario,
we need to be able
mammals,
to cure.
And reptiles carry the Indominus plague. And it has mutated so much that every breath any one of these animals takes spreads the disease into the air and water surfaces. And human civilization is rapidly nosediving towards extinction.
Well, that's
the creation of our hybrid starts with a team of top geneticists working under a coalition of world governments who've so far survived the Indominus plague by hiding in an underground compound located on a remote tropical island in Malaysia.
Meanwhile, leaving everybody else to die.
With creating an animal that could challenge the Indominus 2.0 without human intervention. Unlike InGen, they had no access to dinosaur DNA. They could only work with living tissue samples.
Dinosaurs. We just had
mammal DNA seized from Masrani Global not long after the bankruptcy of the company following the events of 2015. Their goal was to maximize strength, power, and efficiency while using as few different animals as possible in order to maintain congruence. The Paleoloxodon was the clear choice for the base. Simulations run by Goji Center themselves have already confirmed that the animal was capable of taking on theropod dinosaurs. Their tusks will be our hybrid's primary means of puncturing through the dinosaur's armor, while also serving as blunt force weapons.
It's a solid weapon. Just a giant tusk.
Clubs, ensuring the Indominus can't rush our hybrid head-on without risk of serious injury or death. Elephants, especially bull males, are some of the most defensive and territorial creatures in the animal kingdom, and this alone will give our behemoth the confidence it needs to stand up to our enemy.
I like that. I like the confidence.
Of any land mammal that we know of. Their intelligence would have already been on par, if not higher than that of the Indominus 2.0, at least with what we know given its genome. This brain supports some very powerful senses. In ideal conditions, they can pick up on scents from as far as 12 miles away.
So already we're seeing strong,
over
smart,
2,500 olfactory
a lot of
senses,
senses, good senses, high senses.
5 times more than humans, and more than 3 times as many as T-Rex, the animal with the strongest sense of smell in the Indominus's genome. If, for whatever reason, it doesn't smell the hybrid carnivore, they will certainly be able to hear or
I don't even know if y'all saw
those
under my face cam.
Has a chance to strike. Elephants can detect infrasonic sounds from anywhere between 2 and 6 miles away, Depending
What's
on
this low
surrounding
res
conditions,
image?
Their highly sensitive feet pads allow them to communicate via sending and receiving low-frequency rumbles through the ground.
So
with some studies suggesting
Behemoth would
they can
feel
do
them
this
coming,
over
basically.
several kilometers. Needless to
You'd know
say,
wherever
our
he was coming
hybrid will
from.
know where several Indominus are before any of them know where they are.
Beautiful.
Their trunks
Okay.
can lift up to 500 kilograms or 1,100 pounds, around 6 to 10% of their body weight.
That's
Even
pretty
stronger are
solid.
their necks, being able to lift at least their
Dang!
own body weight in tandem with their tusks.
He'd have
Using
to
a
do all that.
2024 estimate for the largest Paleoloxodon, the ancient elephant was about 4.5 meters tall, 6 to 7 meters long,
He's
excluding
heavy.
their tusks,
18
and weighed
tons?
no more than 18 tons or 16,000 kilograms. The skull of
I don't even know what that
Paleoloxodon
is in pounds,
Nemedicus
but it's a
comes
lot.
equipped with a large bony boss structure on the top of their head that serves as an attachment for neck muscles.
Bro, look at the skull
making
of
it
that
likely
thing.
even stronger by proportion. Given that the scaling of size and strength is not a direct one-to-one correlation, we'll say that the elephant at minimum can lift 9 tons or half its body weight, which means Paleoloxodon can already lift more than
he's
half the weight of
tossing.
his adversary. While this is impressive, the ancient elephant can't stand up to the hybrid demon without upgrades.
That's
it
facts.
needs to be bigger.
You can't
And what
just
better
beat him
choice
with a
for increasing
toss.
size than the largest animal of all time, the blue whale.
Ooh.
Now, we're not going to just straight up make it the same size of the blue whale, but
Yeah, I was
If the
about to
blue
say
whale
he
gene
was going to be
we add
huge.
increases the size of our hybrid and is carefully selected for efficacy,
Okay.
our elephant is now 8.2 meters tall and 11
That's
meters
better.
long. This immense weight combined with the
77
sturdy and high
tons?
center gravity of the Paleoloxodon would make any attempts to push
That
this
man
animal
is
over by
ginormous.
the Indominus downright impossible. However, this size comes with some complications.
He's gonna be slow, I would
we
say.
need the cardiovascular system to support this massive upscaling.
Okay.
The blue whale's lungs and heart are twice the size of the elephant's in proportion to their body. We will be
That's
taking
insane.
the whale's robust heart and lungs, as well as their flexible rib cage and pleural cavity to make room for their action. We will also
All
be
right.
using their large and robust liver, which won't make sense now, but it'll come up later. Secondly, this is far too much weight for a mammal this size, mostly because
Definitely.
of the
What did
skeletal
it say,
structure of the
77
Pleistocene
tons?
elephant. But we don't actually need anything from the whale to
That's
fix
it. I
this.
gotta ask
There's
Siri.
another animal later down the line that'll help us.
How much
but for now, we
pounds
can use
is
the same
77
gene editing
tons?
technology to simply increase the thickness of our hybrid's bones by 1.5 to 2 times to compensate.
154,000
Even with
pounds?
a doubling in mass, their skin is just not going to be thick
That's
enough to
insane.
hold up to the claws of the Indominus. A cornerstone for many of the animals that large theropods hunted in the Mesozoic is
Can't use
armor.
that.
And among mammals, there's really only one clear
Ooh,
choice
is it
for
armadillo?
this, the Glyptodon. Their
What is
armor
that?
was the thickest of any known mammal. Armadillos, a modern relative of theirs,
There you
with
go, same
similar,
thing.
albeit much smaller bony shells, have sometimes deflected or slowed down small caliber bullets like 22 long rifle or even 9mm.
I didn't know all that.
However, if
can't
we
even
simply
shoot an
throw a
armadillo.
behemoth-sized
That's crazy.
Glyptodon shell over our hybrid, it's not
It'd
going
be
to be able
weighing
to
them
move
down.
very well. And a big part of the Paleoloxodon being able to defeat the T-Rex in Goji Center's video was its mobility, and we can't afford to sacrifice too much of that here. We'll have to selectively apply this armor in segments, preferably on the back,
We're gonna
top of the
place
neck,
the armor.
shoulders, sides, and flanks. We'll be leaving the underside without armor, not only because the Glyptodonts didn't have any there, but also because if the Indominus 2.0 tries to go for this underside, they would put themselves in danger of being trampled or crushed.
That's true,
Now,
but if he
in
gets
terms
to
of
the
thickness,
side
we'll
and
cover
gets
critical areas
underneath,
like the
he
neck,
got the you get
flanks,
the
and
belly.
sides with
I
the
don't think
thickest
the
of armor,
back really
which,
needs
if
it. I mean, he's
reasonably
super
scaled
tall.
up with our hybrid, shouldn't exceed more than 8 centimeters. Less
I don't know.
critical areas like the shoulders, thighs, and back will be no thicker than 5 to 6 centimeters. We will also be incorporating the Glyptodon's armored club tail, combining this
Armored
with some of
club
the DNA
tail.
of the whale to give us a long, rigid armored tail that can be
This thing's
swung
about
with
to be a
some
beast.
respectable force. So, this suit of armor should serve sufficient for deflecting.
He's got
our
a
enemy's
sword in
attacks.
his,
The Indominus
his-
won't be
what
able
is
to
that?
properly mount
Nose?
the animal like it can with
Nose?
sauropods
Snout?
due to the dense and round
I don't know, bro.
surface
What do
of
I
their
look like?
armor. The same goes
Zoologist?
for their bone-crushing bites. Even with the wide gaping maw of the hybrid carnivore, the broad surface of the armor would make it difficult for it to apply its bone-crushing bite.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention that the highest forces their bite can produce can only be applied by the back teeth, not by the front. The fourth species we'll be taking DNA from is
What
the
is that, an
Megatherium,
anteater?
or the giant ground sloth, and not for the reasons you may think.
Giant ground
Megatherium
sloth.
had
What?
incredibly powerful limbs, front and back. While they used their forelimbs to grab onto the trunks and branches of the trees they
That's
fed
totally
on,
an anteater,
massive
bro.
hind limbs worked in tandem with
He's
the
got that
extended,
tongue.
sturdy calcaneus bone to hold up their hulking
Is that a
bodies.
phone at the bottom? What
I
is
want
that?
these powerful limbs, and more importantly, I want this heel bone. In
I
Goji
want
Center's
this heel
T-Rex
bone.
vs. Paleoloxodon video, the large elephant finishes the theropod off by rearing up its hind legs and bringing all of its weight down onto its ribs. At our
Dead
current
end.
size and weight, that would be almost impossible. But if we give our hybrid the limb strength to push all of its body weight off the ground, as well as the balance of
Get
the
that
heel
strong
bone,
heel
it can
bone.
come right back down and crush the dinosaur like an anvil on a pumpkin.
Ooh.
And just to add insult to
Okay.
injury, while I can't give our massive proboscidean the ability to knuckle walk, I can enhance the little nubby toes
All right,
on the
P.
front
Behemoth,
to be
bro.
more
Every
formidable
animation we
claws
see, he's
that will leave
toast
the
every
hybrid
time.
demon with no chance at an open casket. Tusks are a great weapon, but with all that size, I'd be foolish not to enhance their ability to deliver pure blunt force trauma. For this, I
We're
have
gonna use
decided
a
on the
ram?
bighorn sheep as our 5th species.
Ooh.
Now, I know. Why this instead of something with more forward
Those horns
facing
are so
horns
sick,
like a
dude.
buffalo?
I like
well,
that.
because this
I like the
lamb has
curl
more
in
to
it.
offer than just horns. When placed on the hybrid, the ram
Looks
horns will
cool.
actually serve as protection for our elephant's ears. This will make it harder for the Indominus to get a hold of the elephant's big vulnerable
He's already
ears,
looking
as
cool.
well as narrow
Like,
the
look at
path
that
to
left
access
image.
their
It looks
throat.
sick.
Secondly, the thick, layered, shock-absorbing cranium of the sheep will increase the amount of force this animal can take to the skull tenfold.
Yeah,
And
they be
lastly, the
crazy.
powerful rear legs of the bighorn sheep are designed to provide quick bursts of power, as well as redirect force from
You ever
headbutts
watch
into the
one of those
ground,
animals
further
fight?
augmenting the
Like,
shock absorption and the limb
each
strength
other?
of our
It's
hybrid,
crazy.
and ideally also giving us a slight boost in speed. For our 6th creature, we have the solution to our
bat?
disease problem: fruit bats. It's commonly known that bats are the carriers of untold numbers of diseases, including some of the deadliest viruses: rabies, Ebola, SARS,
Yeah,
and
they be-
many
they be
more.
carrying
Bats
some nonsense.
very rarely show symptoms of these diseases that they carry, which is actually still a mystery to scientists today, but is presumed to be because of its ability to limit inflammation. This trait from the bat and our size-induced high body temperature will make it very hard for the Indominus plague to affect our hybrid.
All
even
right,
though
so
they
he
will
can't
certainly
get
be
sick, he's
carriers
got
of it.
armor.
I had thought about using
Solid
domestic
fighting.
pigs instead of bats because
Definitely
they're pretty
heavy.
resistant to diseases, but even more so resistant to venom. But after running some math, shrew venom, even in massive doses which the Indominus might deliver, would probably have no effect on a creature our size, but if a theoretical lethal dose was achieved by the Indominus, our hybrid's sheer size and elevated body temperature would rapidly break down the shrew venom's enzymes before they could achieve their full effect.
Interesting.
Which brings us to our 7th animal. and the
Seventh
one
animal, this is
species
the
where
last one, right?
geneticists abstained from using
I think
other
he said
mammals,
7.
The scaly-footed gastropod.
The who?
This deep-sea snail has a
What
few
the-
aces
oh, it's
up
a
its
snail.
shell that will bring the rest of the hybrid's genome and traits into harmony. First, these gastropods don't eat anything. Instead, they intake hydrogen
what do they do?
sulfides
Look
from the
at that
deep-sea
thing.
volcanic vents that they live around. This is because
Okay.
they have a symbiotic relationship with gamma proteobacteria that will process and break down these chemicals in order to feed
Hey, we
the
dove into a
gastropod
science
internally,
experiment
while a
today,
portion of it
guys.
is
I don't know what's
processed
going
into
on.
iron sulfides like pyrite and greigite. These materials move through the bloodstream of the deep-sea snail to their shell, which vastly enhances its strength,
Yeah,
giving them
I
some
knew
of,
that.
if not the strongest armor of any living creature in the animal kingdom.
I didn't know
We will
none
be
of that.
taking this bacteria and placing it within the stomach and esophageal glands of our hybrid, as well as traits from the gastropod to make our animal able to process the waste in order to receive energy from it. But how will our hybrid get a hold of enough hydrogen sulfides to feed these bacteria, since they won't be near any deep-sea volcanic vents?
And he's
Waterlogged
huge.
sediments are very high in iron and hydrogen sulfides. Our hybrid will be eating a lot of this muck in order to feed the bacteria in their stomachs. The hybrid circulatory system will distribute these iron sulfides
So
to
as
various
far as
parts
what
of
you
the
guys have
body
heard
by means of
in this
specialized
video.
macrophages synthesized in
Who
the
you
bone
got?
marrow,
The Behemoth
which will
character
transport
or
and bind them to
Endo
the cells of
2.0?
their bones,
Or Hank?
dentin, and keratin.
Well, Hank kinda
and
got
yes,
body.
that includes the
Goshi,
keratin
come
in
on
their
now.
skin.
We gotta
These
improve
carefully
Hank.
placed microscopic bonds will reinforce all of these tissues,
What the-
increasing their
He
fracture
came out like
resistance,
Wolverine.
tensile, and compressive strength by anywhere between 30 and
Got him
50%.
scared now?
This is why I mentioned the whale liver earlier on, as it's gonna need some serious waste filtering power. If we mix our hybrid mammalian liver with the properties of the gastropod's hepatopancreas, it should be able to handle it. Though iron sulfides are brittle on their own, when combined with these structural tissues, it would be even stronger than the iron bone composite seen in the teeth and claws of the Indominus 2.0. On
So
the low
basically what
scale,
all we've
iron
heard
has a
today
hardness
is
of about
this
5,
behemoth thing
while
is a
pyrite
savage.
has a hardness of around 6.5.
I hope
rendering
they all
our
do something
adversary's
together. Put 'em
ironclad
all in
weapons
one video.
drastically less effective.
In a big
A
animation,
huge
that would be
problem
sick.
our hybrid is going to have with all of its biological processes and its size is body heat. The more we scale up our elephant, the less surface area he has to dissipate his heat. Given that it's an endothermic animal, this is going to be a serious problem. Unless we give it traits from the snail that will allow it to better tolerate this internal heat. The scaly-footed gastropod is an extremophile, living around deep-sea volcanic vents where they can tolerate a maximum temperature of 120 degrees
See,
Celsius
now Goji Center
or
came out with the 2.0
degrees Fahrenheit.
but he
This is
didn't do it
thanks
to like go
specialized
against
heat-shock
anybody else's
proteins
creature.
and enzymes
I feel like if he
adapted
comes up
to
with a
maintain
3.0,
cellular function at
he's just
high
gonna make it
temperatures.
insane. It
Including
wouldn't beat
these
everything.
proteins and
But I
enzymes
don't
in
know.
their
We'll
body
see.
should squash any concerns about body heat.
I think this one wins
Modern
right now, though.
elephant calves take anywhere between 18 to 22 months to gestate in their mother's wombs. And if we want our hybrid to have any chance of reproducing in the presence of a population of Indominus 2.0, this will just simply not do. The scaly-footed gastropod, of course, does not give birth to live young like most mammals do. They instead will lay hundreds of eggs at a time. So, instead of gestating, our hybrid will lay large amounts of eggs like the snail, prioritizing the quantity of offspring, being probably no larger than a rabbit upon hatching. Now, hatching that small, it would
He's
take well over
tiny,
50
dude.
years to reach full size.
50
However,
years?
within the
I don't know if
Jurassic
you have that
cinematic
much time with
universe,
Indo.
even non-hybrid dinosaurs are modified to reach maturity rapidly. According to the Masrani global marketing website from back in 2015, the first InGen animals were cloned in 1986, and the first mature dinosaurs were moved from Sorna to Nublar in 1988. So the technology to rapidly accelerate the growth of animals without hybridizing has
So
already
you
been
could
established.
do it.
So I see no problem in applying
I just feel
this
like
to our
Indo
mammalian
is a little
behemoth
smart.
to achieve similar
Might be able to
numbers.
find them
Sea
babies.
snails are capable of mating with each other
I
or
don't know.
self-fertilizing at the expense of genetic diversity, very similar to the parthenogenesis of their demonic
That thing is
adversary.
disgusting looking.
With
But
the
if it
genome
helps,
for
it helps.
humanity's last chance against the Indominus 2.0 sequenced, the geneticists of the Coalition raise a herd of these animals and prepare them to exorcise these demons from Isla Nublar.
Beautiful statement.
Look now at the behemoth. His bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron.
Introducing the Diciotherium
Ooh,
Deus,
there he
a
is,
perfect
ladies and
hybrid
gentlemen.
behemoth to vanquish this demon that possesses the ruins of Isla Nublar.
The
And just as
beast.
Goji
Look at
Guy
the tail,
gave his
dude.
creation a name, I will also give mine a name.
What's the name?
Savior of human civilization and of Isla Nublar, Samson.
Samson. Okay.
At full size, not including his tusks, Samson is 10 meters or 32.8 feet long. He is 8.2 meters or 27 feet tall,
Bro, he's
almost 6
huge.
meters wide, and weighs 83 US tons, or over 75,000 kilograms.
Crazy.
Samson and just one other Diciotherium named Isla were produced in the lab via artificial wombs and raised in the underground facility. They were fed an extremely high-calorie, viscous, and frozen blend of foods called manna, enriched with crystallized hydrogen sulfide to strengthen their bones and armor. While growing up, they were subject to many tests, including durability
Yeah, dude,
and
I think
combat
Samson's
tests.
winning.
He was fired upon with bullets of increasing caliber, starting with .22 long rifle all the way up to .308 Winchester, and all
nothing
rounds
went in.
failed to penetrate his armor. When Samson was about the size of a pickup truck, he was put into a shoving match with an armored M1114 Humvee, not only matching the vehicle's power output, but also aggressively goring the vehicle and piercing its steel armor plates
Samson's
in
the
various
truth.
spots well after the experiment had concluded. The Diciotherium's capacity for herding behavior was proven early on when Samson and Delilah could not go long without being near each other, and when they were moved from their paddock to other parts of the facility, one would hold the other by the tail, much like modern Indian elephants
That's
do.
beautiful.
The two hybrids stayed in this facility until they exceeded the size of an adult African elephant.
Looks
They were
like they're
supposed to
loving
stay for
towards
longer,
humans.
But
Love
by
to
the
hear
time
that.
they had reached this size, the facility could no longer make enough mana for the elephants to continue growing. They were sent to the surface of the island and observed using drones and trail cams, while efforts to find a cure for the Indominus plague fruitlessly continued. The size and many complex biological processes of these animals made their hunger insatiable, and they began to devour any and all plants in sight, eating trees whole, and even digging their roots out from the
Dang!
ground with their massive toe claws. The Diciotherium had consumed nearly the entire island, leaving behind a barren wasteland of rock and dirt.
Well, that's
In this
not
time
good.
frame, the first two elephants had reached what was assumed to be their full size, and produced over 147 offspring.
Bro, the
which
max
were
size
only
is
hatchlings
insane.
that
Look at
grew
the human
past
down
3.5 months of over 12,600
It's a
eggs laid
lot
by their
bigger
parents.
than the Indo.
80 of these offspring were between the ages
And
of 4
Hank,
and
I believe.
5, and were already as large or exceeded the size estimates for Paleoloxodon. Trail cams show that once the first of their offspring reached around 2 years old, Samson and Delilah allowed them to join their herd, and became very protective
The
of
babies!
them when trail cams emitted recordings of Tyrannosaurus vocalizations. This was enough for the generals of the Coalition to be satisfied. The military personnel corralled only 23 of the largest Diciotherium, including the original two, onto a large autopiloted vessel, modified to hold them
23
as
of
well as
them?
massive stores of mana while they made their 7-week journey to Isla Nublar.
And that's where they dropped him off for that beast. Hank. Oh, he's watching the fight. So sorry, Goshi.
We have terms.
We have terms.
Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine, and the herd
Oh,
ran
no.
violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned.
So
in the
this
sea.
is where Endo might
Upon
get
reaching
bodied
the
here.
shores of Isla Nublar, the landing craft beached itself and automatically opened its massive front door. Samson was the first to come running out, immediately
Samson
tossing
the
up sand
Savage.
and trumpeting with excitement, followed by Delilah and their offspring. Though he didn't know any better, Samson's excitement attracted unwanted attention. The Indominus comes rushing out from the tree line and stops for a moment to observe
Even
this
that
strange
image
creature.
right there was
She's
sick.
never seen anything like Samson, but she's also hungry, and food is scarce. This strange, large, glistening animal looks like a tough nut to crack, but if she can manage to kill it, it'll be enough to feed her and her young for days. So how would a one-on-one between these two go? Well, not that I'm biased or anything, I'm pretty sure Samson wins about 8 times out of 10. He can
Dang,
lift almost her
8 out
body
of
weight with his
10?
trunk alone, and 3 times her body weight with his neck and tusks. If the Indominus managed to somehow get on top of Samson, it would be extremely difficult for her to be up there for very long without slipping off, since even her iron claws wouldn't give her traction.
And
on
she
his
can't really do
composite
anything
armor.
up there
She
anyways
wouldn't be
with
able
all
to
that armor.
scratch at his neck and back like she does with sauropods for the same reason. Trying to exploit what weak spots
She could go
Samson does
underneath.
have,
That's
like
about
his
it.
limbs, underside, and trunk, effectively puts her in
The
a kill
trunk,
zone.
that's what it's called.
Going
I don't
for
know why
his
I couldn't
trunk,
think about
she
that
either
earlier.
gets gored, bludgeoned, or tossed by 83 tons of mammal.
What'd I say,
Going
snout?
for his limbs or
That's it.
underside, she's one step away from all that weight being brought down on her, disabling if not killing her instantly. I say 8 times out of 10 because there are 2 scenarios where I see a lone Indominus killing Samson. The first is using her speed and intelligence to wear him down, baiting him to attack and burn energy while striking wherever she can.
True, true.
This would
That can
probably
happen.
take hours and
It would
her
take a
out as
long
well.
time.
The second is if the Indominus has one of these convenient,
A sharpened metal pole.
a well-placed thrust to the
Sharpened
chest or
metal
eye socket
poles.
would kill Samson. Now, of course, 2 or 3 Indominus 2.0 could certainly take
Okay,
down
well,
one
that's cheating at
Diciotherium,
that point.
but
He's
even
getting
then,
jumped.
the Diciotherium would very rarely be alone.
Yeah, if he's
It's
got a squad,
herd
it's game
animal,
time.
And each member of said herd is a walking arsenal.
What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you
Even
got
if
Samson?
Samson can take on
Do you
Goji
got,
Indominus 2.0
Indominus
in a
2.0?
one-on-one fight, what are the long-term effects of
I think I've got
Diciotherium
Samson
being
in this,
introduced to
actually.
Isla Nublar? What was the Coalition's goal?
Shout
The
out to my
larger
boy
goal
here.
wasn't to
He
win
created a
1v1,
beast.
though we certainly could. The creation of Samson was a race against time to support the Indominus 2.0's population before they died off. You see, the Indominus 2.0 is the only species on the planet that has natural immunity to the Indominus plague, and given that they multiply so quickly, it was only a matter of time before Isla Nublar was devoid of any life.
It
the
was
hybrids resorting
plaguing.
to eating each other and eventually going extinct. And with them, humanity's only hope for a cure. Attempts to create a vaccine from tissue samples of these dinosaurs were largely unsuccessful, mostly because
Bro, the fact
acquiring
that
said
Indominus
samples was so
2.0
dangerous,
can
but also
use a
because the
spear
DNA of the Indominus 2.0 was
kinda
too
insane.
mismatched and not congruent enough to make a vaccine for humans from. This is why using mostly mammals for our hybrid was so important.
The Diciotherium had 2 different goals while on Isla Nublar. The first of which
Destruction
was
and
to
redemption.
eat
Any and all plant life to support their incredibly demanding metabolisms, destroying the ecosystem from top to bottom, and by proxy killing off any other animals that could potentially be a vector for the Indominus plague. The
And then
second goal is
destroying
to
that
provide
man.
a food source for the Indominus 2.0 for just long enough to build up an immunity to the Indominus plague. As a result of the Diciotherium eating their way through the island, the resident hybrid carnivores won't have any choice but to hunt the Diciotherium. We're designed to be just durable and challenging enough of a prey item, but not so impossible to kill that they won't try
The
to hunt
spear,
them. They
dude.
can hear and smell them coming and relocate before the carnivores even know they're there, and if they do manage to face a Diciotherium, the herd has strength in numbers, and physically are very
I'm seeing a
difficult
lot of
to take
upside
down.
for
They
Samson
won't
and
fail
his
to kill
squad
a
here.
Diciotherium every time, but they will fail enough times to slowly start dwindling in population as the hybrid elephants continue to grow in population.
And then
As
they
the
take
herds
over.
get larger and more common, it will become increasingly difficult for them to get a meal, and they may even resort to eating their own young,
Solid.
as well as each other to
Solid
stay alive.
theories
But
of
their
solid
end is already
monsters.
written. Samson has already won, and humanity by proxy.
Samson is saving everyone.
So
In
David
closing-
prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in the hand of David.
When most life on the island was gone, save for some Diciotherium, humanity took what was left of themselves, as well as some materials to terraform it, back to Isla Nublar, and synthesized a vaccine from the Diciotherium that prevented both newborn humans and sheep from contracting or experiencing symptoms of the Indominus plague. They will continue to work towards bringing
love this big
nasty plague to a
storyline that
heel
he
for
made,
all
too.
animals, perhaps finding a way to aerosolize it and spread it across the earth.
We even went
Samson
into
himself
curing
was nowhere to
everything.
be found upon arrival, until one day, when surveying the island for places to build housing for the increasing population, Samson's skeleton, which was identifiable by the numbers on his
Samson.
horns, was found under the rubble of
Samson
Jurassic
the
World
Savior.
Innovation Center, with a
What a
long piece
savage.
of broken paddock fencing between his ribs. Alongside him were the skeletons of 3 large Indominus Rex,
Thank you,
with
Samson.
broken bones in various places. It was presumed that when Samson reared up to stomp on one of these predators, the Indominus pierced him with a large metal pole, and he fell on his back, bringing the old building down with him and killing them all.
Wow. Wow. So let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions on the new Samson model here. I think, well, he died at the end, but do you think he would have been able to beat that man Indominus 2.0? I think it was a yes. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video, though. Thank you for watching with me. I love ya. Goodbye.